Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Joffrey Noodle Legs here today with another Noodle film review. Today we're looking at Jeepers Creepers on 101 Films. Now this has been out a number of years now, and it's spawned 2 or 3 sequels, and it's even had like a reboot. So this is the original story, which starts off in this sort of like beautiful countryside in America, where we see a car sort of travelling on a pretty much desolate, empty road, and it seems to be sort of like approaching the camera. The photography work in this film is really cool, and it sort of seems to be approaching the camera. And then we join inside the car where we see a young lad and a young girl chatting, and they're chatting away, sort of like making jokes and things, and they're sort of speeding ahead. And whilst they're going ahead, they see like a camper van ahead of them, like an RV, whatever you call them. And they sort of like speed up to it because they play like a game with the registrations. I don't understand the game, to be honest. But yeah, they're playing some sort of game with the registrations. Anyway, they overtake this RV, and it's like an old man, old woman in it. And they just speed on ahead. And we join them again, chatting away inside the car. And we find out that they're brother and sister. And they're obviously on a road trip. I think they're on their way back home. Not sure what for, but they're on their way back home. So they carry on chatting, but what they don't see behind them is the RV is taken like a little detour off the road for some bizarre reason. But they're not noticing it because they're too busy chin-wagging and having a lot of jibber-jabber. So they carry on, and they're still having jibber-jabber, or, you know, as brother and sister probably do, and they don't see approaching behind them this rusty old van, really creepy van, sort of heading towards them at some speed. And the van then suddenly pulls right up behind them and sounds its horn, which scares the living daylights out of them. And they start swerving over the road. And the girl sort of starts shouting at the lad, saying, you know, come on, you know, let him pull over, let him by. And the lad's shouting out to the car, you know, go round, go round. But it's not, it's just wherever the car's going, it's staying behind him. And this carries on for a little bit, all the way down sort of like the road. And then eventually it overtakes them and sort of goes on its way. And they're totally and utterly freaked out by it. And that they just don't know what was going on or what was happening. Anyway, a bit further down the line, after a lot more jibber jabber, they're still driving along this long journey, and they see an old building on the left hand side, and that van is parked outside, and they see this figure of this man wearing like a long black coat and a sort of undertaker kind of hat. And he seems to be unloading, which appears to be bodies, from the back of his van, and he's shoving them down this hole. And so that they go past him, and we see that he sees them looking at him as he goes past. So he's now sort of spotted that they've observed him. So we now see the van leaving the church, starting to pursue the lad and the brother and sister again. So now the chase is back on again. But this time he's coming right up close, and he's actually ramming the car, which is really sort of like really scaring them up. And this carries on for a good 3 or 4 minutes, where he sort of like keeps coming forward, bumping into the car. He pulls alongside. They can't see in who it is or anything. And he gets behind them again and bumps them, and eventually he pushes them pretty much off the road, and they seem to go into the field, and he tends to carry on driving on. So they get out the car. Obviously they're feeling very devastated by all that's going on, and absolutely terrified. And after they've got their heads together, the young lad's curiosity gets the better of him. He starts talking to his sister about what was that he's putting down that hole at that building. We should really go back and have a look, just in case anyone needs our help. She's really, really reluctant and doesn't want to do it, but he sort of appeals to her sort of nature, saying, come on, if this was you, you'd want me or someone to come back, right? So eventually she agrees, and they go back to this building, and they find out it's an old church. So they put up at this old church where it's like surrounded by crows, and they're all over the place. It's quite a really sort of classic sort of horror thing, but really well photography as well. And then they approach the hole that they saw him throwing these bodies down, which is like some old sort of corrugated sort of like metal circle tunnel which goes straight down, quite low down. They don't know where it is, and they shine a torch down there and they can't see anything. Then the young lad hears a voice coming from the hole, and so he's very curious and starts looking down, calling down to it, can I help, who is it? But there's no sort of reply. And then the girl hears it too. So the lad decides he's gonna have a closer look. So he sort of goes down there head first, getting her to hold his feet. So he starts to try and crawl down to have a look to see if he can see anything. And then a bunch of rats come up this tunnel, and he starts jumping and getting scared and jumping around, and she lets go. And then he slides down and he falls down to the wherever this is, this basement place where his bodies are, and he then sort of like gets unconscious. And so he's now down in there, and she's shouting, for him to wake up. But obviously he's taken a bump, and eventually he wakes up and he sees the bodies that are down there, that he's just thrown down there. So he goes to investigate it, and that's all I'm going to tell you. So what is going on? I mean, it's there's this. Who is this strange guy? And what's he doing with his bodies? Where's he getting them from? You need to watch it and find out. What do I think of Jeepers Creepers? It's what horror films are about. It's like a textbook horror film. It's got everything in there. It's got tension. It's got like creepiness about it. It's got a scary vehicle, which is terrifying, which is like a character of its own. And it's got a really cool sort of villain creature in the film, which I'm not going to tell you too much about because I want you to watch it if you haven't seen it. If you have seen it, you know exactly what's going to happen and what's going on. It's just a typical classic textbook horror movie. The pluses of this, the transfer that 101 Films have done on this Blu-ray, is absolutely fantastic. It's absolutely amazing. This is a 2-disc set. It comes with the movie, and it comes with a disc loaded with bonus features. The young cast are fantastic. They're really, really cool. The creature it's good and it's bad. It's kind of really has a real sort of screen presence, which I really love. And when I say it's bad, I think the badness is more like from Jeepers Creepers 2. When I say it's bad, it's not bad. It's just that I think we see too much of the sort of creature. I like, you know what I'm like. I like things to be a little bit more. The less you see, the scarier it is. And once you see everything, you're thinking, okay, so there's nothing else to scare me now, is there really? But the story's great. I mean, it does go down on like a very similar to sort of like the Hitcher kind of film, where he starts pursuing these two, and making absolute carnage of bodies on the way. But there's some awesome visuals in this film, some real classic horror visuals, and the photography is an absolute must for this film. And I wish a lot of filmmakers would take note of the photography skills used in this film, because it's fantastic. To me, it makes the film absolutely awesome photography. Negatives of the film, um, there isn't really too much to say of negatives, apart from it is quite an obvious sort of story in a way, but that's what you want. Guys, this is what you want with horror films. You want an obvious story because you like that. And that's why you come to these films. You come to these films because you like obvious. You know you can predict it. You know how cool it's going to be. You ain't got to concentrate. You can just sit back and enjoy the movie. Real popcorn horror movie. And this is no exception. I'm going to score this a awesome watch and give it a 9 out of 10. It deserves it, just because it's like a picture perfect film. It's textbook horror at its best. Great movie. Jeepers Creepers, 9 out of 10. Any of you guys seen it? If you have, let me know down below what you think of it. Yes, I mean, it's one of those films a bit like Candyman. When I first saw Jeepers Creepers, I wasn't really that interested because it was so sort of like obvious and stuff. But over the years, it's grown, and it's grown on me, like Candyman. Candyman's the same. When I first saw Candyman, I didn't really like it. Now I absolutely love the movie. And this is the same. I've really enjoyed watching this tonight. And I will be watching the bonus features discs and see how that goes. And I might even watch it again with one of the audio commentaries, because I love watching them, because you get to hear the stories behind the making of the film, what was going through the director's or the cinematographer's mind when he was making it. I love those sort of things, and it brings the film closer to your heart, and it makes it more personal to you, and I love that. Really cool. Guys, till the next video, check out some horror channels for me. Check out Horror Hands. Check out The Horror Geek, The Man v Film, RS Designs, Pizzowell, I Am the Ice Lord, Grumpy Andrew's Haunted House, Cat Watches Horror Movies, Sarah of Horror. All amazing channels, guys. Till next time, look after yourselves. Oh, and special shout out to Lad. Hope you're doing well, mate, because I know you love this movie. And I can see why. Look after yourselves, look after one another, and I really hope I see you all soon.